Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MLW Wiffle Ball. I'm your host, Balin Weisberger, bringing you episode number 8 in the official starting rollout for our final off-season episodes before opening day of the 2024 season of MLW comes in just a couple weeks. Like I said, I'm your host, Balin Weisberger. Thanks so much for tuning back in here. Today, I have gathered about 2 or 3 hot takes for all 8 MLW teams coming into the 2024 season. I'm going to talk about them here, kind of break them down for you. And then we're just going to kind of run through this and see how these hot takes will kind of like look out for the 2024 season. We kind of had a little bit of a difficult time going from like what is just a like normal prediction and a hot take. So, I mean, we'll see. You can let me know how I did, but yeah, that's what we're doing today. We're not going to waste a ton of time going into it, but like I said, this is starting the rollout for our final offseason episodes. We have 4 episodes, including this one, so 3 more after this before May 3rd, which is when the opening day video comes out. So doing hot take, which is this episode. Next, we're doing our full season predictions. So team records and playoffs and stuff. I haven't decided if I'm going to put the award predictions in the full season or do 2 different ones with like the team predictions and then award predictions as 2 different episodes. I'm not sure what we'll do there. And then going into it, we are going to be closing it out with an opening day series preview episode breaking down what I think is going to happen on the opening day series between the Eastern Eagles and Metro Magic in the World Series rematch. So that is kind of the news around the league, as well as how that opening day matchup was announced. Also, each team got new shorts, which are interesting, I guess. But before we do kind of get started here and kind of go into our little game time, I think how the regular season is going to work for the most part. I am going to try to do weekly episodes and just do like every Wednesday or something, try to get an episode out that is kind of breaking down the series that took place last Friday and then previewing the next series. So I'm guessing these will kind of be shorter, more concise episodes. I'm sure it'll be following a little bit more of a script. Like we'll follow the same kind of skeleton for each episode where it's like, what is our starting pitching matchup predictions? What are X factors and what are my predictions? Like kind of like stuff like that. Just follow like the same little script and kind of push out like more short episodes, but on a more consistent basis, and then try to still throw in the occasional, hour-long episode of like analyzing something. So I think that is the plan for once May 3rd rolls around and the season is in full swing, as that is when we'll be doing our weekly episodes. So yeah, that's the plan. All right, before we do get started, last week I started a new segment called Game Time. You guys seem to like it, which is just at the beginning of every episode, play a little MLW like media style mini game. And this one, if you don't know how this works, we're going to blind rank 5 MLW jerseys. So how this is going to work. I have 5 jerseys written down here, and I'm going to say them to you, and then off the top of your mind, you have to put that jersey in 1 through 5 without knowing what comes next. You got to take a chance on one that you like or kind of put low, but you never really know how it's going to like fully work out here. So starting off here, number 1 jersey is the Western Wildcats light purple pinstripe Moxie. So this is a one where it's the white base, it's the purple pinstripes. It's kind of based off that classic Wildcats look of, they got just the Western, kind of like a Yankees-esque almost. It's like Western on their like aways and their darks, and then a pinstripe on their home or light jerseys. So Wildcats light purple. If I'm, saying that I don't have the rest of the list here, if I didn't know, I'd probably put this one at 2 or 3. I'll go 3 right now, but I actually really like that jersey. That's super cool. So, all right, that's Wildcats one. At number 2 here, the Metro Magic Dark Moxie. It's the one where it's a little blocky. It's not that it doesn't have buttons. It's still that kind of 90s look. It says Metro on it. That jersey for me, that's going 5. I don't love that one. I think it's a little blocky. I don't like that. I think the Magic have near perfect jerseys for their light ones and like their vintage jerseys, but that one for me is going 5. So right now I have 3 and 5 blocked off, but you do you. Third up here, we have the Midwest Mallards dark green vintage T-shirt jerseys, ones that they brought in the 2020 season and kind of still wear today. So It is dark green with a yellow Mallart's font on it, and I think there's like a white little wiffle ball or below it or something like that. So for me, that's going at 4. So I have 2 and 1 open, but again, do what you do. 2 more here. At number 4, we have the Great Lakes Gators Light Moxies. Now, I personally really like these jerseys. So they're white with the kind of blue and green shoulders, and then just a Great Lakes logo in the middle with kind of like a alligator tail. That's super cool. That'll probably go in number 1 for me. I think that's a super cool jersey. But again, you do you. And then number 5 here, whatever spot is left open for you. For me, it's 2, and I'm not happy about it. But the Coastal Cobras Gradient Moxie, one where it goes from red over to blue. So you do you. Tell me how you did. You can let me go. You can let me know somewhere. I might put a form below or something. But all right. So without further ado, now let's jump into our official hot takes for every MLW team coming into the 2024 season. That's next. All right, here. Like I said, we're going to be going over our hot takes for every MLW team going in alphabetical order here. We are starting off with team I have had a lot of thoughts about over the offseason, the Coastal Cobras. So I got two hot takes here. For the most part, the hot take is going to be a award. I think is I've kind of resorted to the award a lot, and then like one other one I maybe on the spot try to come up with something like very hot take-ish, but at the end of the day, when it's like 8 teams, it's kind of like the same thing. It's really like the only big hot take to like, oh, this team will miss out on the postseason. No, this team will win the American League and this team will win the World Series. So tried to kind of like diversify them a little bit here, but starting off here with the Coastal Cobras. My first hot take, and again, I don't necessarily believe these. Disclaimer: this isn't my predictions; these are just hot takes. The first hot take for the Coastal Cobras is that Andy Durand will win Comeback Player of the Year. He was completely gone out of the lineup in 2023. The year he left, they went 4-11, and the year he was there in 2022, they made it to the World Series. I don't think Andy Durand is that great of a player right now, but I would love to be surprised. It's the series where Durand was gone. The Cobras got much more quality at bats and got a lot more rallies going. Because I think Andy Durand is one of those kind of 3 outcome hitters. It's mainly 2 outcomes, honestly, for Durand. It's either the baseball kind of baseball minded 3 outcome hitter is it's a walk, a home run, or a strikeout. And Durand, in my mind, is kind of a home run strikeout thing for him. So he's back in the lineup. The Cobras have a full team to manage of 8 players. So I technically that means, more players, less at bats, but I think Durand is going to surprise us. He is, done with football. So now his only like true competitive focus right now is on wiffle ball. And, let's say he has a little, 3 home run season, maybe 250 average. I think an 800 OPS is doable. 900, I think, is a little out of reach, but I think we can ask for maybe 700, 800 OPS from Durand, and that might be enough to win Comeback Player of the Year. I think some candidates off like the top of my mind, like kind of off the rip, is Brendan Baranowski. I think if he does, even kind of like mediocre, I think he's a very good candidate for Comeback Player of the Year, just because, when you watch the games, it's not like what the stats say, because stats wise, he went 0-6 and had like a 2.43 ERA. I think I'm not exactly sure, but so I think it's kind of safe to say that the Cobras will take home the Comeback Player of the Year award just because they have a lot of players that aren't very good, like maybe Zerlag if he gets a full season of at bats and he like rakes to the mound. Zerlag could win Comeback Player of the Year. So maybe those are 3 good candidates, I think, off the top of my mind. Andy Durand, Brendan Zerlag, and Brendan Baranowski. So one of my hot takes for the Cobes, Durand will win Comeback Player of the Year. Next up here, again, don't really believe it, but hot take that Drew Davis will be a normal rotation pitcher on the mound this season. Right now, their rotation on opening day, the opening day series for the Cobras, wherever they play, they are ideally probably starting Brennan Baranowski games 1 and 3 with Caden Irwin in the middle. When you look at the team, there are 8 guys. Only Baranowski and Caden Irwin have that kind of pitching prowess to them almost. Drew Davis, he hasn't been good in the past. Maybe he can be better, but like Sean Flynn doesn't pitch, Andy Duran doesn't pitch, Chris Baranowski we haven't seen pitch, Zerlag doesn't pitch. It's a lot. They got their new draft pick too, Justin Esch. 8 guys on this Cobras lineup is a lot to manage. So, you know, I've again, I'd love to see Caden Irwin, step up and be a really good hitter, or really good pitcher, but I don't really see it happening. So, if Irwin kind of has a slow start, maybe his first 2 or 3 starts, I think we could see a world where Drew Davis just kind of integrates himself into this Cobras bullpen, and we're seeing him on the mound at least once a series. So, those are my 2 hot takes for the Cobras. Not super high hopes for them this season, but we'll see. All right, next up here, another interesting team to talk about, the Downtown Diamondbacks. Now, this first one is a big one off the rip because the D-backs are starting this new era of their team because, a loss of Shima and that 2-1 loss in the NLDS to the Eagles, I think it is the end of an era. And I think for the first time in Jimmy Norp's career, the Downtown Diamondbacks will miss out on the postseason in 2024. Again, I'm not saying I believe this. We'll wait for my predictions episode to see. Sorry, I say we'll wait for my predictions episode to see where I put the Diamondbacks. But for hot take purposes, I think you have to say that this could be the first time in Jimmy Norp's career that the Diamondbacks miss out on the postseason. So, with the loss of Shima, that kind of puts I guess you could throw in Trey Flood and Casey Bennett as kind of the team's veterans, just because they have been around coming in on their 3rd year. But it's really Jimmy Norp and Jonah Heath as the 2 main veteran aces for this team. So nonetheless, they're going to be very reliant on their young stars. Jonah Heath has kind of been so over the last couple years. You know what you're getting from Jimmy, but I mean they're just going to be reliant. They're going to need big at bats from Jacob Pishka and Casey Bennett and Trey Flood and their new addition Carter Richards. So there's a lot up for stake. We've seen that Trey Flood is very good. We've seen Jimmy Norp has been really good. Heath can be good. Heath is good when it comes to the home run derby. That kid can rake. But regular season, we haven't seen that vintage Jonah Heath from 2021. So, it's a big question mark season for the D-backs and how they'll look because it's just starting a new era. Now, with that said, if they could come back and win the World Series, their 3rd in 4 years, they could be in an official dynasty spot, but I don't see that happening. I don't even see them coming out of the NL this year. So, first time in Jimmy Norm's career, I'm just going to say it. Maybe the D-backs will miss out on the postseason, as for hot take purposes here. Next up, here's my award one for the D-backs. Mr. Trey Flood will be a Cy Young finalist at the end of this year. He had an incredible start to the first half of his season in 2023. He was a National League starting pitcher in the All-Star game. And he was a big piece in the Diamondbacks 8-1 start because they did start 8-1. It was the hottest start to their team's history. And then, come that second half, he started 4-0 and he only recorded 3 losses in the second half of the season. So I think, though, this kind of ties in here. Trey Flood could grow into the Diamondbacks ace by the 3rd slate of the series of the season and stay that way for the rest of the year. I honestly, I think that's a hotter take for the D-backs than Trey Flood being a Cy Young finalist, is that he will step up as the ace and be that game 1 and game 3 pitcher over Jimmy Norp. I think for one series last year, that was what they did. I'm pretty sure Flood started game 1 at some point for the Diamondbacks, but I think come 2024, that'll be a much more normal thing to see. Trey Flood being that anticipated game one starter for the Diamondbacks. All right, 2 teams down here. Next up is the Eastern Eagles. Now, this first, first take for the Eagles here. This might be the first one where it is almost my official prediction. It's, I've been saying, I don't really believe in these hot takes. These are just hot takes for, the sake of hot takes. This one could be the first one that is my actual prediction, but I haven't really worked on the script for my full season predictions episode yet. So I don't know if this is my guess, but first hot take for the Eastern Eagles is that Dallas Allen will win the 2024 Most Valuable Player Award. He is the face of the Eagles franchise. He has been for years now. It's, everyone's saying, oh, it's Daniel Schultz. It's always been Daniel Schultz. Dallas Allen is the new face of this franchise. He is just an unstoppable double threat on both sides of the ball that I think, is just getting better. Like his skill level has been increasing somehow every single year. And a really big change from 2022 to last season was a maturity level for him. So back in 2022, when the Eagles were playing the Diamondbacks in the NLDS, after the Eagles got their super hot start, then kind of cooled off, they missed out on the 1 seed and they got to play D-backs in the DS, coming off of the Diamondbacks World Series. The Diamondbacks got to him. I think it was game 2. I think Dallas Allen started all 3 games for the Eagles that series. And the Diamondbacks get to him and he gets really frustrated and he starts to lose it. And then once, he kind of, I think he threw his hat or something. That point was when the Diamondbacks would come back and stun them and end up winning the series. So, taking that into mind, coming into 2023, he played in the biggest, arguably the biggest series of MLW history in the 2023 World Series at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So many seats. And Mercedes-Benz, they got fans in it. It was awesome. And he pitched on the biggest stage of the league. Sorry, accidentally ended it. I was saying how he came up and he pitched on the biggest stage of the league, arguably of all time of the league, and he showed his emotion, but he showed maturity and he showed a level head. The Eagles did not have an easy way up to the World Series either. They had to get through 2 long 3-game series between the Diamondbacks and Mallards to get to that point in the World Series. And without Dallas Allen, they're not winning that series against the Diamondbacks because he showed he was calm and he showed a lot more maturity, stayed a lot more level-headed, and was a big, huge part. He was the Eagles team that got to the World Series. So I can almost promise you that if not this season, the next season, and by the latest 2026, in one of the next 3 seasons, I can guarantee you a Dallas Allen MVP will happen. I think he will be the person to, um, you know, dethrone Ryan Cratch of MVPs. And honestly, if Cratch doesn't win it again in 2024, I think Dallas Allen should be that runner-up. If not, maybe Jordan Robles. We'll see how Patrick Ballman does. If Grant Miller can pitch on the mound, there's no way that a one-way player beats out a pitcher and hitter for MVP. So really kind of it's Kyle Schultz, it's Jordan Robles, it's Ryan Cratch, it's all those players that do both things. It's Dallas Allen that win the MVP. So I think Allen should be the guy to dethrone Ryan Cratch. And I think it might be a full prediction that I believe in that Dallas Allen will win the MVP. All right, so now let's start one here. Next up for the Eagles, if everything goes to plan, and if what I'm about to say kind of falls through, I think it's a good take that the Eagles will finish with the best regular season record in the league. So by the time August or September rolls around and the playoff videos start coming through, I think the Eagles could get the #1 overall seed in the league. If we look back to this team's past 2 seasons with this kind of roster that we've grown to know for the Eagles. In 2022, so 2 years ago, they had one of the best starts to a season, going 7-2, and then lost every series for the rest of the season to that point and finished with the loss in the NLDS to the Diamondbacks, who would go on to win the World Series. Last season, 2023, through their first 6 games, they start 1-5. And, the team just looks really bad. Daniel Schultz can't pitch. The offense can't get going. And then that same Eagles team that started 1-5, they finished in a game 5 of the World Series, which they ended up falling just short. So if, we see 2 consistent halves by the Eagles, a 7-2 start in 2022, a World Series finish in 2023, the Eagles could be the favorite team of 2024 quickly. And it's going to really come down to Dallas Allen. So I don't think it's that much of a hot take that the Eagles will finish with the best regular season record in the league. The MLW came out with their preseason power rankings. I'm sure I'll do my own at some point, and they had the Eagles at 3. I think the top 3 was Magic at 1, Mallards at 2, and Eagles at 3, which I actually agree with. So I think very quickly the Eagles could take over that number 1 spot. And every year we're always like, oh, we should see a rematch in the World Series. But I think this year it's a very, very highly capable, if that National League ends up shaping up. So that's the Eagles. Next up here, one of the biggest single season rebuilds in recent MLW history, the Great Lakes Gators. So kind of 2 aren't super big ones, but first hot take for the Gators is that Jeremy Adams will win the 2024 Rookie of the Year award. This kid has a lot of upside. He is a 2-way hitter, pitcher and hitter. He was drafted number 2 overall and a 4-star recruit in the draft video. And then I've heard from MLW players personally that he's got some good stuff. He is a very consistent player to show up in the MLW tournaments, and apparently does really well in them. So I don't think it's that much of a take to have Jeremy Adams winning Rookie of the Year. Obviously, he has to win over Patrick Ballman, who's the favorite, just because he's number 1 overall. We know he's going to get a ton of playing time. But Adams, I think he could definitely win Rookie of the Year. That's not too hot of a take. And then when it comes to this Gators team, there is one hot take. There's one thing that all Gators fans have been wanting over the past couple of years. And, I have to say it. I earlier said that the Diamondbacks could miss out on the postseason. And if that is so, I have the Great Lakes Gators squeaking into the playoffs by probably a tiebreaker, honestly, because I don't see a world where the Gators have a better record than Jimmy Norp and the Diamondbacks. But if the D-back season goes poorly, then the Gators are into the postseason because, in that 4-team National League, if the one team that loses, 3 other ones are playing for the chips. So I think their fate at that time of the year could very much come down to other teams. But Gators, I have to say, what else do you want me to say about that team? Chris Cheatham wins Manager of the Year. That goes to the World Series winner. I don't know. Cheatham comeback player of the year. I don't know. It's just there's only so much you can say with this team. Maybe they'll have a rookie of the year and they're a undrafted free agent, which was Aiden Richard, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but Great Lakes Gators, Jeremy Adams win rookie of the year, and they squeak into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. Well, not a lot to say about that team. We'll talk about them later. So, all right, next up here, 4 more teams. First up is the Metro Magic. Now, again, this first one isn't super spicy, but I have the take that Grant Miller and RJ Walgate will go back-to-back Cy Young and Silver Slugger awards. Kind of the first time ever where same 2 players win the award on the same team. The Magic have established themselves. Agner made all the right calls. I think there's still potential for Grant Miller to make a pitching comeback. I think that's 100% not out of the picture. But this team follows a recipe for success, and I've talked about this on other episodes. But it's not a hard plan to recover, but it's very dependent on people doing their jobs. And last season, players did their jobs very, very well. Grant Miller, when you're building the offense, like, oh, Grant Miller's going to be our hitter, and he was the best hitter in the league. So he did his job fully, and we won our ace, our young ace rookie that nobody's seen before, and he goes and wins the Cy Young Award. So it's dependent on everybody doing their job, because without Grant Miller in this offense, it's bad. It's not good. And I don't think Walgate puts up the same numbers if Grant Miller isn't hitting. I don't think Miller puts up the best numbers if RJ Walgate isn't shutting it down on the mound. So it's a very, systematic game plan for the Magic, but it works because they just won the World Series, and they're got to be the favorite coming into it. So that's my first prediction. And this kind of just ties into the next one, is that the Magic will break their single season franchise win record at 10 and win the American League regular season championship for the second time in a row. I think something very wrong should go down if they don't come out of the American League honestly into the World Series, or at least in the regular season. If they don't win the American League regular season championship, I think something went very wrong, because we know what we're getting from the Preds. Cobras are not going to be good, and then I really think the Wildcats are that one kind of wild card team, just because they have their brand new team with Patrick Ballman and Ty Fresnick. So a lot of question marks around them. So they very much should win the regular season championship, and once the playoff comes around, those will be a different conversation. So Metro Magic should have a good season. You got expectations now. You didn't have any expectations last year, so we'll see how, RJ Walgate and Grant Miller come back from their award-winning season. So high hopes for the Magic, and I think they should very much achieve on them. All right, closing it out here. Final three teams. First up is the Midwest Mallards. Now, if you heard me doing my draft, live reaction and recap here, I said that this move from the Mallards, getting Brennan Jorgensen, makes them my 2024 World Series pick. So I'll say that right now. First hot take for the Mallards is that they will win the 2024 World Series. I'll go into more depth in my predictions episode. Keep hyping that one up. So I just think adding Jorgensen makes this a very complete team. I think top to bottom they have players at positions everywhere that can get the job done. Jordan Robles starting games 1 and 3. He's getting you one win, at least. It will depend on their rotation. I think getting Caden Irwin out was a great move. I've been saying that all offseason to change it to second position in the arm. It is said that Preston Colm will be making a start for kind of the number 2 game 2 pitcher for the Mallards. I could see, but then again, even if Colm doesn't work out, they have backup guys. They have Brennan Jorgensen, who's been a pitcher forever. We've seen Brennan Davenport on the mound. Of course, that outing didn't go well. And then maybe even Matt Collington has something in his bag. So I think they have a surprising amount of pitching depth that not a lot of people think about. And of this offense, adding Jorgensen makes this the best offense in the league. Robles is unbelievable. Tommy Coughlin hit 6 home runs last year, and Brennan Jorgensen had a 1,300 OPS with 342 average. This Mallards team shouldn't lose a series all year. I get it. They always have that one bad day where they get swept and then they bounce back for the rest of the year. If they eliminate that one day, this team can win 12 games in the regular season. I'm very high on the Mallards. I'll talk about them a little bit later. But kind of my hot takes were Mallards will win the 2024 World Series with a Tommy Coughlin World Series MVP award. And then kind of my other one is Preston Colm will be a consistent number 2 arm all year long over Brennan Jorgensen. But I'm sure for games here and there, we'll see Jorgensen or we'll see maybe even Davenport getting a start on the bump. So Mallards, very, very high hopes for them coming into 2024. All right, the last two teams here for the hot takes are the Pacific Predators and Western Wildcats. First up here for the Preds. This Preds team coming into 2024 could be the team that pulls it together and wins the American League and makes it to the World Series, their first one since 2019. the one Predators flaw that has happened consistently over the past couple years is they have not been able to put together two consistent halves, very similar to the Eastern Eagles. How if we could see, both teams put together two good halves, we could have a 2019 World Series rematch between the Predators and Eagles. So I think that's our big problem. Just a little kind of minor hot take here. Alec Warda, I think he'll have a big year at the mound. He'll hit 6 home runs, could be a Silver Slugger finalist. And then I think this is a pretty sure hot take that's almost like certain is that Levi Fleer will permanently replace Stephen McGlade as the number 2 arm for the Pacific Predators. I like the Preds team. I think Levi Fleer is a really good pickup for them, and I think they have a lot of potential with this team. It's very dependent on Fleer. I hope he gets to start for their opening day series in game 2. And then if he's, even half as good of a pitcher as Ryan Cratch, then the Preds should be in a good spot. I think their offense is all right. Rudy Ramirez is definitely starting to warm up. So Preds team definitely make some noise in 2024. They're hot and cold. They can't put together two good halves. They'll be bad for the first half, like we saw last season, then pull together, go 6-0 in the second half, or they'll be really, really hot at the start and then just kind of fizzle out. So just a rule of thumb in all sports, a lot of wiffle ball here is just be consistent. So last up here with the Western Wildcats, going to kind of go through these. Sorry for the shorter episode. This one is, again, not a super hot take, but I'm going to go Patrick Ballman will be an MVP and Rookie of the Year finalist. Ballman should be the Rookie of the Year favorite, although, I'm just going to kind of give the win to Jeremy Adams. But in the past couple of years, we've seen rookies be MVP finalists, from Jordan Robles into 2022 and Grant Miller into 2023. Ballman, hopefully in 2024, will have the same kind of output. He's definitely that two-way player for the Wildcats that can, get the job done on the mound. We hope I think he's the only 5-star. No, I don't think there's anybody at 5 stars in the draft. But Ballman, number 1 overall. It's definitely not a super hot take to have him winning Rookie of the Year. But last up here, the final hot take is, this one's actually interesting, that I think is going to happen for the first time in Western Wildcats history, the team's history, at full strength, meaning everybody's at the field. Kyle Schultz, there will be a series where he will not start games 1 and 3. There will be a series where there will be a better pitcher on the Wildcats than Kyle Schultz. I think he needs to somehow expand his arsenal. He's got 1,000 really good pitches, but can't really kind of push it across. And I think people are starting to get to him. I could kind of see a similar situation that we saw with Daniel Schultz last year. But Kyle, he's just so good every single year. I just think people are going to start to get to him. And who knows? Maybe we'll see Patrick Ballman on the mound. Maybe Ty Fresnick is really good. Maybe Jackson Pearson continues his stuff on the mound. But I think we'll definitely see Schultz and Ballman running the rotation with maybe a little bit of Ty Fresnick coming in there for the Wildcats. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up here. Sorry, a little bit of a speedy, trying to wrap this one up quick. We got a couple episodes to push out here before May 3rd, so be sure to stay tuned around this show. Thank you so much for tuning in to our hot takes. Let me know what you thought about it below, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.